Of the 4,000 possible cryptocurrencies that are out there today, do you have any in your portfolio? And what about that Peleton stay-at-home gym thing? We investing $4,500 on a treadmill that's just going to get recalled? We'll talk about this and more today on the BizPo Show. Welcome to the BizPo Show. From Dallas, Texas, I'm Seth Denson, joined as always by my good buddy up north, Dan Geltrude. Dan, how are you, bud?
I'm good, Seth. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I don't know about this doggy coin or Dogecoin or whatever coin it is, but all the rage is crypto. What say you, my friend?
I have to tell you, I'm not quite sure I understand why there is so much attention being given to this, other than it's the shiny object and everybody is looking and saying there's so much money to be made in cryptocurrency when nobody really understands what the heck it's about. When people ask me about it, and I've been getting a lot of questions to say, hey, should I be investing in Bitcoin or some other crypto? Now Tiger King is getting involved in this too. I say, listen, I just don't think it's a good idea. Even seasoned investors need to be careful, unless you don't care about losing your money. But people don't think about that, Seth. They just see dollar signs, everybody's making money, and I don't think that's going to be the reality forever.
Yeah, Dan, I've said all along that I felt that this was a fad. Listen, currencies have been around for millennia, right? And the reason currencies work is because they're backed by something. They're backed by some form of state. And so people are willing to take, an item and place value in it because it's backed. Crypto, I don't really, Elon Musk, the nation of Elon Musk, is that where that we're backing this thing? But I mean, even all last week in the news was this Dogecoin, right? Dogecoin was started as a joke, as kind of almost a slapstick throw in the face for Bitcoin, and now all of a sudden it's God's gift to the future. And so my take on this is that it is a fad, that people are placing value on it because why not? And that we have become such a virtual reality world that this idea of virtual non-governed currency gets everybody all riled up. But here's my take on that. The music will stop. At some point, the music will stop. And while cryptocurrencies may make people millions upon millions of dollars between now and the end of that tune, somebody somewhere or a whole bunch of people somewhere are going to be holding on to it when the music stops, and they're not going to have a chair, and God help them if they're highly leveraged there.
Well, you may be right, Seth, but let's put this in perspective, particularly with Dogecoin. And as you said, this thing started off as a joke, as a parody. Right now, the market valuation is $90 billion. And if you put that in perspective, that's a higher value than Ford, General Motors, Twitter. So clearly, there's something there. Could it all be a mirage? As you said, we're going to find out.
Yeah, but don't you think, Dan, again, if we're talking about that and we're saying that, to me, that says more about whoever's putting these valuations on these organizations than it is the organization itself. I mean, a $90 billion, somebody said that Bitcoin's now over $1 trillion, and you're sitting there going, what? How? Help me understand this. And again, I'm not trying to be grandpa. I get the world moves, the economy moves. We need to make sure that we're up on what's going on in the economy. But I've also been around the block enough to know that sometimes things come into play and everybody jumps on them, and then tomorrow they may not be. Again, I know that we talked about this a little bit during a segment we did together on Newsmax last week, but at one point everybody thought Enron was the stock to hold on to. Guess what happened when the music ended on that one?
Well, that had fraud behind it, so that was a little bit different.
Is
Seth.
it though? Is it? I
Well,
mean, listen,
I
with 4,000 possible cryptocurrencies, how do you not potentially have some form of, nobody can tell me who's running this thing. Is there not fraud there?
Well, there could be, but remember, when you're talking about fraud, you're talking about someone that is intentionally trying to deceive. Now, I don't know if that's the case. I'm sure with 4,000 different cryptocurrencies, could some of those out there be fraudulent? There's no doubt about it. Do I think Bitcoin is fraud? I don't think so. I think there is technology behind it, the blockchain. I mean, look at Ethereum, for example. Just last month, the European investment banks actually had a digital bond issuance that went public through the blockchain technology provided by Ethereum. So, I don't see it going away, Seth.
No, I agree. I don't think it's going away. And again, before you tweet at me, listener, about I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to crypto, I get that not all of it's going to be fraud ridden. I think when there's 4,000 of them and when I can't look at my social media page without getting 400 offers from some guy that last week was selling satellite dishes and this week is now a crypto expert, I'm sorry, but I'm going to be skeptical. That's what you pay me to do. And so I'm going to be that guy, and I'm going to ask the questions, and perhaps we'll do that. By the way, speaking of maybe overvaluing things and skepticism, Dan, you're a buff guy. I got to think you work out quite a bit.
I'm glad you've noticed, Seth. It's taking you quite a bit of time, but thank
I'm
you.
slow on the compliments, but they get there eventually. But hey, nonetheless, you got one of these, like, you wealthy guy. You got one of these super high tech Peleton, $4,500, treadmills or bicycles or something.
Well, actually, I do. I do have a Peloton bicycle. I think we've had it since October, and I think I was on it once the first day to figure out how to use it, and I haven't been on it since. So they made out on me, that's for sure. But certainly, there are a lot of people out there that were working the home gym and had Peloton being a critical part of their workouts, no doubt.
Yeah, so we talked a minute ago about valuations, right? I remember when Peloton came out and it got its evaluation, everybody kind of looked around and went, "Really? I mean, this is it's a bike. It's a stationary bike." But again, nonetheless, a very cool stationary bike. It's got literally cult following. I've seen people with Peloton tattoos. That tells me you're a cult follower if you're putting a tattoo on your body with a Peloton P. But nonetheless, recently, obviously, in some hot water, having to do a massive recall of their new treadmill that unfortunately it's prone to have things sucked up underneath it. But I think this raises a bigger question as people are looking at their portfolio and trying to figure out where to diversify. I know a lot of the stay-at-home stocks, right? So Zoom, Netflix, Peloton, Nordic Track, all of these were hot commodities throughout the pandemic. What's your take on these things going forward in a portfolio?
Well, I think, Seth, that you could see some retraction related to market share on some of these stay-at-home products. And if we're talking about a product like Peloton, do they have a cult following that is going to continue to work out at home? Absolutely. But are there people that want to get out and go to the gym and kind of return back to what once was? Yes, I do. And I think the problems that Peloton is having right now are quite serious because you're having people getting seriously hurt, and we have a death, which is very unfortunate. That's certainly not going to help them. But do I think there's going to be some retraction? Yes, I do. If you look at a company like Zoom, I think people have gotten very, very used to Zoom. I'm not so sure that they won't continue in the path they've been on, but some other products, and Peloton may be one. I think you got to be aware of that in your portfolio.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that the stay-at-home stocks are going to shift around a little bit, and certainly things like Peloton, which while it does have, a lot of market share, it does have 25% estimated revenue that comes in through subscription services. All that's great, but there's a lot of competition in the space, and again, as we start opening up the economy, people start getting out. I think that the market share certainly is going to be slimmed down. Nonetheless, diversification, right? It's what we always talk about. That's the key to long-term success. We're going to talk about that with our guest this week, Rob Gill. He's going to be joining us here in just a minute. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Today, we have a really special guest, none other than Rob Gill, founder of Epic Financial Strategies. Rob, welcome to the BizPo Show.
Excited to be here, Dan and Seth. Thank you both for the invite, and looking forward to the next 30 minutes and see where it brings us.
Well, you know, Rob, having a guy like you on our show is so helpful for our audience because we really seek out guests that can lend insight to what our viewers, our audience is looking for. So let's jump right into it. So we all know that it's been a really difficult time for businesses trying to navigate their way through a pandemic and now coming out of a pandemic. Nobody has ever dealt with anything like this before, at least not for the last 100 years. So what do you see that businesses are doing to try to be successful in what's happening around us?
You know, thank you for the question, Dan. And to your point, we just experienced a 100-year pandemic, and there was really no roadmap from the last one to this one. And then seemingly out of nowhere, last March into April, the world just shut down, right? And you think of the restaurants, and especially here in the New York, New Jersey area, I know that they're still like not even fully out of it yet. And I think that for all these folks that are in that space, just being able to be innovative during COVID. I saw a lot of restaurants survive through Uber Eats and a lot of pickups. And then the ones that couldn't adapt to it were the ones that kind of went out of business. But when I think of what I see now, I see a lot of restaurants that are starting to hire again. I see a lot of businesses that are starting to hire. But I think that, like everything else, climbing back out of this is going to take some time. TIME, things I must earn. And I think that the folks that have the proper plan in place, proper strategy, they're going to be the ones that are going to prevail. And unfortunately, they were hit with something that seemingly there was no calamity bell that came and gave us a warning that the world was going to shut down.
Well, you're right about that. I mean, how could anybody have prepared for something like this to hit in their business? So that leads me to my next question. I mean, what benefit do you think that people can specifically get from retaining, you know, consultants such as yourself to help them get back to what is normal and even go beyond that, Rob, to really capture true success?
Yeah, I think that a lot of folks, if we go individual folks or if we go business owners, the key would be, and Dan, and you know this, you know, from the accounting practice, that we work for our clients don't work for us, right? Our job is to provide information based on whatever their goals and objectives are. And to take it a step further, I think it's important that we at Epic understand what the investment philosophy of folks, what they have, what is their philosophy, what is their core values, what are their strategies, and then to take it a step further based on their goals and objectives. I feel that each and every person out there, both individual or business owner, should do the very best they can at connecting all their financial professionals to be on the same page, whether it's their fiduciary, whether it's their accountant, their estate attorney, trust officer, insurance agent, and or broker. If everybody's on insurance, everything under the sun, if everybody's on the same page, think of a fractional family office for the benefit of the client, and all the oars are going in the same direction and the right hand is speaking with the left hand. I think that not only would people be better off, number one, but number two, more importantly, when the next calamity comes our way, because it's going to happen. You know, we've seen, you know, not only 9/11, but 2008, and then obviously the recent pandemic. That's just in the last 20 years. I can go back 100 years and highlight all of them. I think that I think if that's in place, then when economic winter comes and there's no announcement, there will be a much better way forward in the middle of a crisis that could come our way.
Rob, Dan and I talk regularly about the importance of diversification, and you specifically at Epic, you guys use life insurance. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
as a tool really to create wealth and build a portfolio. I think a lot of times investors think that they have to be in stocks and bonds and all these other things, and they think of life insurance as an end of life thing. Walk us through how you guys use life insurance to actually make people money.
Absolutely. So, life insurance, if properly diversified within and amongst asset classes. So at Epic, we actually have two divisions. We have Epic Financial Strategies, which is the insurance division, and think of a Swiss Army knife where you could use the insurance during your wealth accumulation phase of your life. Think of the money you're putting away before retirement, building up the cash value. A lot of folks, entrepreneurs, like to overfund these policies so they could leverage the policies and maybe buy real estate and then have their renters and real estate pay back their policies. So now they're getting multiple rates of return of each and every dollar through a process and a strategy, not just like a one-off, but a long-term strategy. With that, you have a death benefit that, unlike term insurance, which 99% of the time expires, your death benefit in the insurance space doesn't expire. So that means that, hey, Dan, and you'll appreciate this, if you have a death benefit and, under the unlimited marital deduction, as we know, the estate taxes come into play on the death of the second spouse, that death benefit in life serves as a spend down of other assets, knowing the death benefit could replace whatever you had spent down, thus reducing potentially a portion of your taxable estate. Now, I'm not saying that life insurance is the cure-all for everything, but if you're someone that has a lot of money in the market, and I'm not a fiduciary, although Epic Wealth, which is a right down the hall, it's part of Epic Financial Strategies. There are fiduciaries on that side that manage money, and I think if you look solely at the money managers, they may not really want to talk about insurance. If you look solely at the insurance agent, they may not want to talk about money management, but somewhere in the middle, I think, is the perfect mix for each and every individual when it comes to overall proper planning.
So, Rob, when you're talking to a new client, how do you determine what the best vehicle is for them to really start planning for the long game, to plan for that retirement?
Great question, Seth. I think the first thing that when we sit down with folks, once again, I said this before, that it's important that we understand what their investment philosophy is, how we can meet them where they are. And then I think the first discipline approach would be whatever your income is, you'd like to get to the point where you could save 20%, pay yourself first, 20% of your income. You may have to start out at 5 or 10, but eventually getting to 20. And then once you understand whatever your personal savings rate would be, and if the company's going to match on a 401k or not, or whatever else could be going on externally, then from there, would you deploy the money into the different strategies that are based on goals and objectives?
So as you start to think about the economy, Rob, coming out of this pandemic, where are you most concerned as to where things are? And then how are you addressing those concerns within your clients' portfolios?
So I think back to '08, when we were 3 days away from money not coming out of the ATM machine. I know that there was a lot of money that was printed to bail us out, right? Different from, although it was the same thing, but different from the 4 to 5 trillion that's been printed over the last 12 months, which was more of a stimulus. And when you look at what the market had done, I'm not an economist at all, but the stock market, I'm just going to go off the top of my head. I think in '08 at some point was at 14,000 a Dow, went down to like 62, 6,300. That's where it kind of bounced off, and over the years made it to where it is today. So if I look at a low interest rate environment, which we're in right now, and I look at the money that's being printed left and right, where's the money going to go, right? So that's the first question. And how do you properly diversify with all the financial professionals within and amongst asset classes? That means in the market and outside of the market, right? Diversify within all those different asset classes. Do I think that the market, because of this printed money, yeah, I think in the short term, there's an argument that, hey, the market could continue to go higher because of that. However, longer term, and this is where we like the insurance, longer term, based on the amount of money that's hitting the system right now, eventually 10, maybe 5 or 15 years down the road, we have a $28 trillion debt, and we produce $22 trillion in revenues, so we're $6 trillion in the hole. Think of a credit card that has a $28 trillion statement bill on it, and we're only paying down 22 trillion of it. So it takes me to Greece because we're at 127% GDP to debt ratio, right? Greece, I think, is at 207. So I have fear for the future, which is why I think that money and strategy and planning should be diversified globally across the board within and amongst asset classes.
Rob, what would you say is the difference in today's environment for families and businesses from a planning perspective that's different from years past?
You know, we have the interesting dynamic of the baby boomer, right? So the baby boomer is taking care of mom and dad, and they're also taking care of the Nikes, the no-income college-educated kids, right? So not only is money coming to them, right, but they're also, you know, taking care of their children as well. Now, obviously, the digital revolution. You know, we have I think our brains, we have a 2 billion-year-old brain. Guys like me and you, Dan, were brought up in I want to say the 70s. I'm going to give you a couple of years on that, brother, because I love you. And we live in an economy in 2021, or a technology in 2021. I know some of the baby boomers not the baby boomers, the kids in the 20s that work here. I can't even think of what generation they are right now, but the kids that work here look at me like I'm crazy. And they are so tech centric, everything they do, and it's really about understanding how the family dynamic ties into the current economic and technological situation that we all live in. Do I believe that there's going to be a lot of jobs created? Yeah. Do I believe that certain industries and jobs are going to fall to the wayside? Absolutely. And I think it's about being able to keep up with change, understanding the dynamics, and being able to kind of, you know, anticipate, right, through asking yourself proper questions, I think is the way to move forward. And if you could do that, you'll find yourself on the other side, you know, in my opinion, in a better place.
Well said, Rob Gill. Rob, can't thank you enough on
Nike. I'm going to use that, Rob. I hope I can steal that from you. I loved that analogy.
I stole it, so it's all good. I don't even know where I got it from, but yeah, please use it all day long.
The guy is awesome off the top of his head. Well, listen, Rob, thank you so much for coming on the BizPo show today. Seth and I really appreciate it. And Rob, where can our audience reach you, by the way?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I think, you know, if you check us out at www.epicfinancialstrategies.com, that's the website. I think what we're really satisfied with is if you go to YouTube, just put Rob Gill Epic Financial Strategies. We're dropping videos every day, educational only. We're not selling anything. It's there to provide education in all different parts of planning itself when it comes to mindset and what to look for. And if you do check us out, please hit that subscribe button because we're building our follower list. And Dan has been in quite a few videos with me as well.
Well, that's the real reason to tune in, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
So thank you, Rob Gill.
Yes.
We'll be right back.
Thank you, Seth.
Welcome back to the BizPo show. Well, if you're a regular viewer of the show, you know each week Dan and I like to leave you with our final thoughts. And here's mine for the week. As we talked about at the front end of the show, cryptocurrencies are all the rage today. A few months ago, it was stay-at-home stocks like Peleton and Zoom, and many others. As our guest mentioned, diversification is critical. And that's my final thought for today. Diversification is critical. Don't get emotionally involved in investments. It's okay to get emotionally involved in the outcomes. But recognize that in a global economy with things like politics and inflation and monetary exchanges, commodities, all of these things means that what is good today may not necessarily be good tomorrow. Seek out good advice, seek out counsel, focus on the long-term game, and find success. Get emotional about the outcomes, but not about the stocks. And that's my final thought.
Seth, my final thought relates to looking down at my feet and seeing the sneakers that I'm wearing. And the sneakers that I'm wearing today are called All Birds. Now, I am not here to endorse specific products, but I got to tell you, what I like about these sneakers, they are incredibly comfortable and they're environmentally friendly. And I think that when you can find products that are also good for the environment, that's the win-win. That's what I like to call positive financial karma. Now, that's not always the case. There isn't every single opportunity to find a product that is really environmentally sensitive. Although I think over time we are going to move the world in that direction. And that's a good thing. The problem, of course, that we have is we have to balance that with what happens in our economy. But simply stated, if you could find products out there that go easy on the environment and hold up just as well as other products, give them a shot. That's my final thought.
Positive financial karma. Somebody should write a book about positive financial karma, shouldn't they?
Well, not unless they're going to infringe on my copyrights.
Go pick up a copy of Positive Financial Karma by none other than America's accountant Dan Geltrude. So, hey, that does it for this week's edition of the BizPo Show. Programming note, Dan and I are going to take a week off next week. I hope you'll spend some time when we're not on air, going back and maybe viewing some of the past episodes. But we'll be back in a couple weeks. We certainly hope you'll tell others about it and tune in then. From Dallas, Texas, I'm Seth Denson.
And from New York City, I'm Dan Geltrude. Good night.